was on one.
Okay,
Got
this
that.
brings our meeting to order for the Capital Program Committee. It's Thursday, October 17th, 2024. Just after 3. And can I get a roll call vote for who's here? Jill Veith,
Pete Kaiser.
John Kitchener.
Howard,
Matts.
and staff that's here.
Sue Carmel.
And then we have
Drew Padno, DPW.
Drew, Charlie,
Balaki DPW.
hey Charlie. And Mr.
Chris
Lowe.
Lowe, DPW.
Hello. Thank you all for being here. Just a reminder that this is audio visual recorded. Can I get an approval of the agenda?
So
Second.
And on your motion, Pete?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Howard?
Aye.
Jill, aye. Do we have any public comment? I do not see anybody. And now we're gonna go on to these requests for today. So, but actually, excuse me, before we do that, I just want to go over a couple things with you guys because then Pete's gonna take over. Oh, by the way, Christy is gonna come. Okay. So we are gonna wrap up next week. We're gonna have the airport come at 2:00. Not 3, so 2:00 next Thursday. Followed by David Gray with the sewer department and stormwater. And then we are going to be finished with all kind of, I want to call it new business, right? Our new spending requests. So if there's anything, anyone else you want to come back, or if you have questions about certain things, you know, if you could email me and Sue and let us know, like anything in particular. I've already started getting through my Rory's. I want to encourage all of you to do them. And I would love for you to have them done by the end of the month. I'm probably losing my mind asking you that, but it would be great if you did. But my question for all of you before that is, do you want to deliberate about them before you rank them? Or would you rather rank them and then we will definitely deliberate on them after we rank them. But do you want to talk about them before you rank them? That's something we didn't really do in the past that I recall, so. Except, you know, we'll talk about them on the day when we meet with department heads and things.
Well, personally, I'm okay to deliberate after because I'm gonna be getting, I'm not gonna collaborate with, but I'm gonna be getting a little help from my friend Howard.
Yeah.
On
how to do it.
On how to do it.
Yeah.
Right. I just think, if I may, this is Howard, that
Sure.
it would be nice to have everybody score not being influenced, and then we can look at it and talk about it a little bit, and you know, afterwards, just to clarify, like maybe I missed something and someone else picked it up.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, that's okay.
And so the only benefit to that also might be, as you're going through them, you might come across one that you're not comfortable ranking without possibly deliberating or asking more questions, not necessarily to understand how you're gonna rank it, but just there might be some information missing that you don't know, and it might be best to bring it up with the group. So maybe if it's shoot to have them done by the end, if anybody has any that they need to discuss before they're comfortable ranking, we do that. And then after that discussion, understanding that they're fully ranked.
Okay, so I want to encourage everyone, Christy was telling, to have your worrisome actually by the end of the month. And I know,
Doable.
I think that's great, Joe.
I think the sooner the
I do.
better. I don't want people to feel really burdened over Christmas on the report and the report
Yeah.
writing. Pete has a baby coming, like, I want to feel like things are kind of moving ahead. And so I just wanted
We
to,
know what she meant.
I want to encourage everyone to do that. I started going through mine. and personally think they were too complicated. I had a lot of questions for Sue. She already got me the answers. She's so on it. So if you start looking through and have questions, ask her now, and you still have plenty of time to do your worries by the end of the month.
Yeah.
So if everyone could do that, then again, we can move into the report writing and,
Yes, Madam Chair.
okay, great.
Understood.
Understood.
And that's as much of a message to myself as it is to anyone else here. So.
Joe, I have a question. on
Yeah.
Rory's. And I think I mentioned this, John, at some point. In our Rory's, there is a section for comments.
Yeah.
My comments are comments, how often do those get used as far as like I did use them sometimes when I'm doing Rory's and I have questions. Just to have it in front of me instead of just, like, I will write some reminders for myself or things I have questions on in the comments section, but I don't want to do that if it's something that is
Official.
meant for something else.
I will have to double check because I think we added, Howard, may remember that
In the
from last year.
spreadsheet, we had comments.
We added a
Yeah.
field for comments like last year, and I don't remember which one it was that populates to one of our reports that we include in the.
Yeah.
In the final report. I
That
have to
would
double
be an
check that.
extremely sensible thing for us to be able to do.
Yeah, because I
To have
often-
it and then not populate it in the
Yeah,
spreadsheet.
yeah, think of questions in the, yeah, exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
Because there were two places where we could put comments, and I know one of them goes right to our report,
Right.
and the other one was for internal use.
Well, and I believe Howard's our czar of comments throughout the discussion with department heads, and I don't know if he's tracking those on his own.
Oh, the comments and
sheet-
footnotes?
Yeah,
Yeah.
sheet outside of the database, or if he's inputting those into the comment section and the individual requests, and perhaps Howard can fill us in on that. But
I haven't put it into the database. I have a spreadsheet right now that I can certainly share and we can add to, and then I would use that for the notes to the report.
yeah, and I think Christie's just making sure that if he adds comments for his own sake on a request while he's going through his Rory's, that they're not going to conflict with anything that you're doing. It doesn't sound like it will.
No, but it would be certainly nice to see what he wrote. So how do we do that, Sue?
Well, I would, as I'm doing my Rory's, when I'm on, a request, I just go to my Rory and put it in that request comment section.
Mhm.
And it sounds like those are more comments that you might have for yourself, not so much for the whole
Well,
group.
no, well, they would be either a question for a department head, or they'd be a question
Okay.
for finance, or, a discussion point among group, within group.
Gotcha.
Okay.
That's all.
But I wonder, Christie, how the rest of us have access to your comments or my comments for.
Yeah,
Well,
I
she
don't
can
know.
populate it into a spreadsheet, I think, if you want to,
Well, I gotta know where,
but. I'm not gonna die. Right.
no, it's the
Maybe
user.
she needs to look into that, Howard, to see if she can do that,
And
but
I have to know where you're putting that, Christie?
Well, it would be under comments and footnotes,
Oh, yeah.
because most
But
of the
he's
time, you
going
see
into
that
the
there?
project.
So
Go
most
down.
of the
Go to
time,
the
that
bottom.
section is empty. But I had found it in the past to be a good little board for some of my thoughts.
Exactly.
That's
Yeah.
all.
Oh,
Mhm.
but where did they get?
But where do they go?
The
Or
other
is it
one I
just for
can
him?
look at, I mean, we don't have to do it right now,
The
but I will
meetings in past
figure out.
years, not this year yet.
Okay,
Yeah.
I will have to figure out which ones populate to the report and which ones we keep internally.
Okay.
And how everyone sees it, I would think it would all go to,
So, I mean, I just added a
There's a way.
footnote and a comment to Tran-20-002 cobblestone improvements.
Yeah.
So anybody can look on their end and see if you can see.
I'm
what I
fairly sure they can see
Oh,
those.
yeah.
You put that in the main project, not through my Rory.
I put in through the.
You put through comments and
request.
footnotes.
Yeah, comments and
Right.
You
footnotes.
didn't put it through my Rory comments.
No.
So
is
there's
there
two
one there?
sections for
Right.
comments, that's the
I
issue
think that
there.
my Rory comments are internal and I don't think that will go into the report.
Yeah, okay.
That's what my
But we-
thoughts are.
But we can see each other's or not. then.
I
No.
think you might.
In the
be-
comments section, I put no.
That one you can, not the one that Christie's.
Oh.
Do.
So under the-
Yeah.
Are you on a Rory?
Thanks, man.
However.
Right, are you on a Rory right now?
No, not.
Comments and footnotes, right?
I guess, let me rephrase it. I'm wondering if I can use that for my personal note taking and
That's-
questions and thoughts to bring up when we come into group and we're discussing that one. I can look at my notes and comments. Did I have any questions on this when I was either listening to the department head or when I was doing the Rory? I might take notes for myself as a reminder.
That's the one that will be written, for me anyway. would be
Yeah.
Really bad.
I agree. I'll double check, cause I mean, that sounds like that's working that way, but I have to double check.
Okay.
All right, well,
I mean,
No worries.
Test
Gee,
it out.
can you tell, can you read his
well,
comments?
so I'm telling you, it's like, you go
Where he
to
would-
cobblestone improvements.
Which,
just puts-
Tran-20.
Right, those are the ones that I believe will
Yeah, so
show
go to that
up
one,
in our
and then go
report.
to the footnotes and comments and see if you can see what I put in there. Yeah,
Yes.
so you can see everything I put
Yes.
in there.
Yeah, so if
So-
you put it in there, everyone can see it.
Yeah.
That's in the
Yeah.
comments and footnotes, and
Yes.
that's in a different place.
No,
but
that's what
you're
I'm talking about.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
no, the one that says footnotes, I know definitely
Great.
goes to the report.
But also everybody can see it.
Yes.
Yes,
so
like if
we'll
I
have
put
to-
something in, Jill can see it.
So we'll have to edit them before we do the final report.
Well, and I guess,
Oh, I see what you're saying. Because that's
Right.
part of the document.
Howard,
Yeah.
just thinking back to last year's
Well,
process.
maybe you can delete it after we've deliberated.
Yeah, maybe. All right.
Thinking back to last year's process, Howard, I know you tracked comments that made it into the report on your own spreadsheet. I'm trying to think of how they got from that spreadsheet into the report. We didn't individually go and put them into the like plum requests.
He put them in the.
Did we?
notes,
No,
didn't
you just you manually transposed them
Oh,
from
year
your
before we-
Word
What I, right,
Excel
right.
sheet into the report.
What I did was I wrote all the footnotes and
Yeah.
then Stephen read them and you read them. We skinnied out a lot of them.
Yeah. And then transpose them directly into the report. So they never made it into this, the department request comments or footnotes, so. At
Correct.
least in that regard, the important stuff that Howard's tracking isn't going into this comments and footnotes section for each request, so. In that regard, we don't necessarily need to worry about
Yeah.
Christie's, train of thought comments or notes. Messing
Yeah, I see.
with anything else that's relevant or important to the report.
Alright.
So, yeah,
Okay.
use it up, just don't say anything that you don't
Yeah,
want us
yeah.
to see.
True, true.
All right, we've got Drew and Chris Lowe and Charlie here, so actually, I'm hoping if you all don't mind, could Charlie go first? Because then Pete Kaiser's gonna take over as chair. So I don't know, or Drew, if you wanna do Charlie's, I know he only has the one request today for the turf equipment.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. That's fine. I was thinking the same thing. We start with Parks and Rec. It should be short and sweet, and we're also hosting a tree advisory committee as we speak. So
Oh,
we cut Charlie loose. He can go join them.
committee.
Yeah.
I'm dying to get on it. I love the trees. All right.
I'll let you know when we have a vacancy.
Yeah.
Okay. Do it.
Don't you already, Charlie?
We need
Uh,
more trees.
I think we got one coming up, cycle.
All right, Charlie, you want to tell us about the maintenance for the turf
So this is 26.
or Drew, either one?
Charlie can speak to the equipment. I'll probably jump in after and just give a little background if he doesn't cover it.
Yeah, so we're just looking, so there's two pieces of equipment that are in here. It's a Groundmaster 1200 and a Procore 1298. These are attachments for the Torah Outcross that was approved last year. And so these are, one of the Groundmaster is a 12-foot wide mow deck, and the Procore is a 96-inch wide aerator. It's necessary equipment to maintenance the field. It allows us to be extremely efficient with one person. Being able to cut the fields in a manner of, like, say, you should be able to do nobody or the Delta fields about 4 hours, where in the past it took a team of 2 guys, a day and change to do them both. So it allows us to be as efficient as we can be with the personnel we have.
So it's not just for the turf field.
No, so these are actually, this is for the grass fields.
Gotcha. Okay, I think
I
it
don't, I
said,
don't have anything in for the turf field at the moment because we're currently under contract with an outside company that comes in and grooms that for us.
I gotcha, okay.
We do have some equipment that we dug out of the 40-foot container there, that the Torah Outcross that was approved, and we are currently in the process. We just executed the contract the other night. That will pull that rake around. And then once we get closer to coming off contract with the company who's doing the maintenance for the turf, you'll probably see me back next year with a specialized piece of equipment for that.
Okay. So, does this also cover, this will work for all the grass fields?
Yep, yeah, it's convenient enough that the nobody here in Delta Fields are a short little jaunt down the bike path. And this big 12-foot wide deck folds up nice and narrow, and then you can just drive the piece of equipment basically across the street. So it'll be extremely efficient for us.
So yeah,
Does any,
I just wanted to add to
Yeah.
that real quick. So as Charlie mentioned, that Toro Outcross was approved for this fiscal year's capital. It was approved at Wednesday select board meeting. We got the contract yesterday, so that piece of equipment should be showing up pretty shortly. And lastly, it aligns with something I've mentioned a couple times, which is our vision to not outsource so much of our grounds maintenance. We had a couple positions approved for this fiscal year, and we are advertising those shortly, so that Charlie's not the only single employee in our Parks and Rec division. We get decent but not exceptional service, but it also comes at a high cost when we're outsourcing this type of stuff. So Charlie identified the piece of equipment that Toro Outcross is a really nice little Swiss Army knife. Does a bunch of different things, and these attachments will be a big part of that going forward, but it'll certainly cut down on time and the $100,000+ contracts that we have to maintain our fields. We're looking to not have to renew those year after year.
Okay. Right? Anybody have any other questions?
I mean,
Sorry,
just a-
Christie, go
just
ahead.
a comment, knowing, the cost of, landscaping and gardening and all that jazz, maintenance, the fields. Like, those are the biggest bills that come across my desk, and I think this might pay for itself in a year, so.
We're currently 125,000 a year. For
Wow.
basically mowing and fertilizing and maintenance of the field. So this will more than easily pay itself back in one season.
Yeah, and does this, Charlie, is this just a somewhat of a simple machine, or is there like training required? And are we already able to staff it?
Yeah, like I said, the upside of this is that instead of having to have multiple people on multiple lawnmowers, it'll be one person in this piece of equipment. It's relatively simple. It's a little bit more fancy than say like a homeowner's Kubota tractor or something like that. It does have a front end bucket on it that can come off, and this stuff all runs off the 3-point hitch and a PTO. The nice part is like I can go in and I can preset parameters as to how fast the machine can operate and run while they're doing these things. So for instance, like most people, when you start out aerating, it's nice and slow. And then typically my experience in landscaping, towards the end of the day, people get tired, and next thing you know, they're going a little bit faster, and because they want to get done. Or we can go in and we can preset speed, how fast the implement runs, and it really kind of makes it foolproof. And just someone needs to just drive it and steer it. So it's a pretty simple machine, but it would be really helpful.
What about a robot, Charlie?
So I've been looking into autonomous mowers.
I bet you did.
They're not quite there yet. If it was just a big field and we didn't have to worry about soccer goals and other stuff that would have to get moved and around, like there's some stuff out there that might kind of do it. The tech's not quite there yet, because what's happening is, I'm sure everyone's always seen there was a little mower that used to run around the outside of Outdoor Power. It's like like the size of a Roomba. That obviously we couldn't do on a I think there's 600,000 square feet of turf between Nobody and Delta. People are working to adapt full-size mowers with the robotic technology to be able to sense that if somebody's in front of it, so it stops. So the technology is coming, and hopefully by the time that this stuff in 10 years it reaches towards the end of its useful life, something will be there, and a little fleet of mowers will come out of a container and go mow everything and then disappear.
Yeah.
It could be like a Roomba.
Yeah.
It's like
Roomba. Christie?
Charlie, where's this gonna live?
It'll live at the fields. We just purchased 3 new shipping containers out there. One container will be over at the Delta fields, because there is a garage there, but it's not big enough to house everything. And then there is currently a 40-foot container at the Nobody fields, which is a straight container. And so after about 10 feet, it becomes kind of useless, because you can't get climbing over stuff. So we've got 2 20-foot side open containers to replace it. That 40-footer is going to come back here, get repurposed. So everything will live at the fields, be very easily accessible. Back the outcross up to the container, hook up the attachment, go do what you need to do, put everything back, store it inside.
Yeah. Okay.
John?
Yeah, Drew, it's John. I just had a question on your point about, bringing in-house stuff that's currently outsourced. How does that work, with regard to housing though. If you're gonna have to find housing for people that we bring in that are currently, working for a landscaper, is that gonna, do you figure that in the numbers when you're looking at what it might or might not cost?
Not really at this time, because the town doesn't exactly have an abundance of housing options for employees, especially for, say, a laborer or senior equipment operator at the DPW. I know the housing office and the Affordable Housing Trust and the town administration are working hard on building out Affordable Housing Trust properties. There's the Tacoma Green Development. One of our employees recently was fortunate to get selected for the the one on Fairgrounds, I don't know why, Wiggles. Yeah, I mean, certainly like every department, housing's an issue for us. We've had a lot of really good people apply. Nantucket's not the hardest place to attract people. People want to come live here. We don't exactly have the ability to house employees at this time. We hope that gets better in the future. But we're optimistic we can fill some of the roles that we have, and thus get this turf maintenance equipment and these attachments out on the field sooner than later. And within, 2-3 years, the equipment's paid for itself, and people are, commenting on how good the fields look and, the quality of the grass and such.
Okay, thank you.
I would just recommend you change the name to I know you say natural turf, but it's kind of easier if it just says grass fields.
Sure, we can certainly do that.
It could make it look like you're being too cute by half by saying natural turf, and then
We don't want to create any questions.
we do not. Trying to help you, Drew.
Thank you.
Joe, can I just ask Drew just a
Yeah, keep
comment?
going.
Drew, so it's more of a request. We don't have to do it this year, next year. Anytime there's like specialized equipment, because I do go through supplemental documents, and I know you guys always have your estimates and your, pricing. Could you guys just put a picture of it, just so we can get some, it just would be
Better.
nice to know, like whether it's a vacuum truck. I don't need a picture of a Ranger, but,
Right.
anything specialized, and it's something that, like the fire station, when they get a new engine, just like, what are we buying? Like, it'd just be nice to know so we can match a visual with what we're getting.
There should have been, I thought in the supplemental documents, I'd actually had little descriptions that actually had a YouTube link to each piece of equipment, so you could actually see it in action.
Or that.
Yeah,
Sure.
I think that should be in there.
Well,
I
Thank
didn't see.
thanks, Christie. Yeah, if it's not in there, we'll make sure we get something uploaded for
Yeah,
you.
and next year is fine. I just
I think it's under the descriptions one, Christie.
Which one is it?
It should be the quote, and then there's a descriptions one underneath it.
And there's an email that's part of the description.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm usually pretty good about.
All right.
All this stuff in.
But yeah,
I think the problem was mine linked me and said I needed to download an app to open it.
yeah.
Yeah, I think when I look at the estimate, I just, be nice to just have a visual. It doesn't necessarily have to be a video. I just want to see what it, if I want to go further, I'm happy to go on YouTube, but, just like to, as a
Quick.
addition to the, supplemental documents, would be great. Thanks, you
That's
guys.
a great idea.
Okay. Anyone else? All right, guys, thanks for your time and thanks for waiting. While we had a chat about our worries. I appreciate it.
Sure.
Not a problem. Thanks,
Next
Charlie.
week won't be the same without seeing you, Drew. We're just,
What's
Yeah.
next week won't be the same without seeing you.
Yeah,
that?
we may just ask you a question, even though you're not there.
That's fine. I'm available at 3:00 on Thursdays for you guys.
Thank you so much.
All right, Charlie, you're free to go back to tree advisory committee if they're still going.
All righty,
Thanks, Charlie.
thank you.
Thanks, Charlie.
Thanks, Charlie.
I really like birch trees, just for.
So many.
Beautiful. Okay, Mr. Lowe, I am going to recuse at this point, so Pete Kaiser's gonna take over as chair. And I'm just gonna sit off to the side. And then when we're finished, I'll come back to you.
All right, perfect. Mr. Lowe, thank you for joining us. We have our list that Susan provided us. I don't know if yours matches, but if you want to take them by the request code, looks like they're all SWEF 26 and then 01 through 06. If you have those in the same order, probably be best to just go down 1 to 6.
If you don't mind,
Yeah.
it might be easier for me if I could kind of pick and choose, if that's all
Sure,
right.
yeah. Yeah,
Okay,
no,
great.
no problem. Just let us know which one and possibly the code if you have it there also, so we can all make sure we're looking at the right request on our end before we die.
Absolutely. So I'm going to start with 006, the security cameras.
Okay, yep. All right,
So what we would like to do, or what we propose to do, is to provide 4 security cameras over at the solid waste facility. We're doing that in preparation of the new service agreement that we will have with the contractor for operating the solid waste facility, the MRF, the composter, the transfer station, landfill, and then associated other functions at the solid waste facility. The reason we are requesting this is number one, the town is going to be taking over the solid waste facility. I'm sorry, we'll be purchasing the composter as well as the transfer station. We own and operate the MRF and landfill already. But we feel as though this, number one, that this is, we're not sure who the operator is going to be, whether it's Waste Options or someone else, based on the RFP that we had out there to operate the solid waste facility. And so we would just like to be able to monitor the goings on, the traffic in and out with the residents as well as the contractors, just to give a good bird's eye view for safety, security, as well as permit compliance. So, if we see something that is wrong or that the operator is doing something improper, we're not presently on site, we'll then be able to address it and, phone them up and take care of that quickly. So it's a $50,000 request, and the cameras themselves will report back to the solid waste office, and with the camera system that we already have in place at DPW. So that's a summary there.
Yeah, thanks, Chris. I'm glad you touched on a couple of things. I probably should have prefaced most, if not all, of these capital requests with just a reminder that, again, approved for FY25 capital was the purchase of the transfer station and the composter. As Chris mentioned, we will be the sole permit holder for all of the solid waste facility starting December 1st, 2025, which is when the new waste services agreement goes into effect. So we're in a very much transitionary period, which we see as a really good opportunity. But with that comes more responsibility and the need for more control. And so the security cameras in particular speak to the importance of safety and security of the facility that will be solely in control of and ownership of starting in FY26.
got it. So thank you, Chris. Just curious, first off, so are there any cameras out there right now?
No, there are no cameras out there presently at all. I'm sorry. I'm going to take that back. There is a camera at the scale house that looks into the loads that come into the facility so that the operator of the scale house can determine if in fact the driver is reporting, the type of waste that they are bringing into the landfill. So that is the only camera, and it's a camera that the scale house operator only sees as well.
Okay, great. And then these 4 will be obviously positioned kind of around the campus or premises, so to speak, and then viewable back in the main office. Closed, kind of closed circuit. Okay, awesome. Let's see, John.
Yeah, I'm just wondering, in terms of the supplier, the vendor that you're looking at, did you talk at all with the school as they're upgrading their cameras, as we speak for 26? I'm wondering whether you talk to anyone else in terms of who you're going to use, for example, the police department and so forth.
No, great question. The vendor that we chose was Citronics, and that's the same vendor that Parks and Recs, Charlie Palacci is going to be using for his sports fields. And I do believe that it's the same vendor that the police department of Charlie Gibson is using as well. So we're trying to stay consistent with the same vendor.
Additionally, Chris, you're planning to put a camera at the Take It or Leave It for security and safety as well. And as he mentioned, we have one camera here at the DPW headquarters, and those are all Citronics products as well.
That's correct, Joe.
For consistency's sake, that's what we certainly expect to do.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else? Howard, Chris? Howard, Christie? Real quick, Drew, just so you guys have one camera at the DPW's kind of headquarters right around the corner there?
Yep.
Gotcha. I would assume if there's a new facility built, there would probably be a litany of additional cameras, more than one there. Yeah.
Yeah, we
Probably
would
not worth installing a bunch at that old outgoing facility.
Right. Yeah, we would have a handful. I mean, the one we have now here at 188 Mattakit is on the end of our office building, and it does scan, so it'll follow vehicles in the driveway and through the yard. But sure, back in the materials area and some of our storage, outdoor storage area is kind of out of range of the camera.
Yeah, gotcha. Okay, great. Thanks. Yep, one.
I did have, are we getting the minimum amount of cameras that we need to satisfy this? Or are we getting more than? I mean, I'm guessing 4. Are we just satisfying a minimum requirement? And is this just like a town sort of generated sort of request, I guess?
Yep. So basically what I did was I got together with the engineer from Citronics, because I'm not a camera expert, to determine focal length and things like that as far as coverage. And based on the areas that I wanted to concentrate on, they felt and they, situated the cameras for me so that we could get the biggest bang for our buck as far as coverage and things. So I don't think that we're shorting the list. I think that what we have chosen will get us the coverage we need.
Yeah, I think it's kind of a good opportunity because it's quite a open site in general. I think they'd all be like 270-degree cameras. One would go on the back corner of the MRF. It would see the scale house and a little bit back towards the citizen drop-off area, and then all the way around the corner to the hoop building. And then there'd be one on the other side of the composter, which would cover some more of the facility, and then back at the transfer station. So between those 4, being on kind of different corners of the building, I'm not sure there'd be any or very, very little blind spots on the entire site, which works out kind of well just because of how things are spaced and how big the buildings are.
Got it. Thank you. Are we buying the cameras or are we leasing that? Or is there a lease program? And is there a service component to this?
Yes, so we are buying the cameras, and that there is a service component to this as well. Correct.
Okay. Everybody good? Yep. All right.
Yep.
Chris, thanks. We can move on to whichever one is next on your list.
All right, so the next one would be 005, the composter aeration tip building with conveyor system.
Okay.
Basically, so the town will be purchasing the composter from Waste Options, December 1st, 2025. So that has been appropriated, and that's part of the service agreement as well that we will execute once we determine who the vendor or the operator will be. Basically, with the influx and the increase of municipal solid waste going into the facility, Waste Options had to change the operation as far as building and how they received municipal solid waste at the composting buildings. There is a tipping building, but the tipping building is too small and doesn't allow us to debag the municipal solid waste that we receive at the compost building. So Waste Options worked out with the state of Massachusetts, Mass DEP, to debag the municipal solid waste so that we just get minimal plastic that the MSW is contained in. So that debagged MSW is then presently loaded into a front end loader bucket, transported out of the air floor building outside the parking area, and then transported to the tipping building, which the material is then fed into the composter drum. So the new proposal is Waste Options has a modification to the permit to allow for the installation of a conveyor. So once the conveyor is then going to convey the debagged municipal solid waste. We're going to cut the loader out of the picture. And so the debagged municipal solid waste will go on a conveyor and then conveyed over to the tipping building, and which would then feed the composter drum. So we're going to be more in compliance. There's going to be less windblown litter, less chance of spillage. So it's just going to be a neater, tighter operation. There is not a conveyor in place right now. As I said, we do that by manual work through, operating equipment. And this is just going to be a more seamless, cleaner, better compliant with permit conditions. We estimate that the cost would be close to $600,000 because of the some of the demo work that has to be done, and the construction, and then the purchase and installation of the equipment.
Okay, thank you. Any questions in the room?
Okay.
Howard on the screen?
Nope, I'm good.
Christie in the room?
Chris, so we're just outfitting old equipment with some new components? Is that it?
Not really.
What?
So yeah, so the way the system of the composting building system, it's made up of 4 buildings. And there was a tipping building, there was a air floor building, there's a biofilter, and then a screening area. So basically what happened was, over the course of time, they determined that the amount of municipal solid waste that was coming into the tipping building was overwhelming the tipping building itself due to its size, as well as there was also a noticeable amount of excess plastic that resulted in the composting of the municipal solid waste. So the Waste Options opted to get Mass DEP to approve them to install a portable debagging system that basically grinds up the municipal solid waste, removes the bags from the MSW portion. And so the MSW itself is then bucketed with a loader and driven outside the building, down the hall road, and then dumped into the tipping building in order to feed the compost drum.
Okay.
So this new system it's just a cleaner, better, tighter system that's going to be more in compliance with the permit conditions.
Sounds good. Thank you.
So instead of using a loader, you essentially have the conveyor
Right.
transfer
Yeah.
stuff. Probably a dumb question, I would say, but so municipal solid waste, I'm just trying to picture when I go out to the, you know, to the landfill, to the dump. Is that are those the bags of trash that people that live here are filling into the dumpsters, or are those trucks that are being paid to go collect it from people's houses and then bring it in? Or is it both, or is there is it a
Yep.
catch-all?
No, that's a good question. Yes, so it's a combination of both. So
Okay,
there's
so it's-
there's the citizen drop off as well as the commercial accounts that pick up from residents. Yes,
So MSW is just the catch-all for all, you know, bagged garbage that anybody who lives here produces and ends up out there.
that's correct. Yes.
Gotcha, okay. Got it. And just looking at the cost or the source quote estimate, so the supplemental documents show, I'm guessing the new equipment, if you wanna call it that, quoted at 140,000.
Hmm.
Is that accurate for the actual conveyor belt, the new system that we're installing?
That is correct. Yes.
Got it. So for the actual system itself, we're looking at about 140. And then on the quote source, you know, equipment or fixture is about 190. I'm assuming that's that 140 plus some for the
Yeah.
purchase of the fixture and
Yeah.
equipment.
So we allowed a little bit of a fluff factor
Yeah.
for the purchase because just because the timing and not sure and availability. So yes, we did add an escalator to it.
And then obviously construction is, to your point, demolition of some stuff and then construction of the apparatus to accommodate the new equipment to be installed.
That's correct. Yes.
That's estimated 200 and then additional contingency of another 210
Correct.
for contingency on construction and everything. Okay.
So, I mean, obviously, it's always a bit of a challenge when we get a quote now. They're only good for 30, 60, or 90 days, depending on what it
Sure.
is. The other thing about this is we won't be able to act on this in July. We won't own the building until December 1st, and then we'd be able to put it out to bid. So we're probably talking about doing this 18 months from now. So just wanted to add that in there in terms of the timing. You know, we're not gonna be able to jump on this next summer. As soon as FY26 rolls around, we won't own the building until December.
Yeah, good point.
Just a little bit further out than a lot of the other stuff we're targeting.
Process takes a while, but wouldn't have been able to squeeze it into fiscal year 27 and been able to start on time.
Right.
Okay, good. Anybody else? Good?
Good.
All right, next up.
All right. So next up, we're gonna do 004, which would be the RAM feed system repairs. And so the RAM feed is is the system that feeds the actual drum in the composting tip building facility. Waste Options has advised me that we probably should have some type of contingency or some type of capital approval if in fact the RAM feed ever goes down. It's a specialty item that's built specifically for the composter itself. And Waste Options has been maintaining it, has been repairing it over the years. And they do know that, you know, there's not necessarily, there's a useful life, but we really can't, pinpoint what that useful life is. But we do know that the amount of solid waste or municipal solid waste that the composting facility has been operating with has been increasing yearly. So it's being used more and more than in the past. It's a solid design. It operates well. But as Drew said, we will be purchasing this building December 1st, 2025. And so it's not something that has to be done immediately, but just based on availability as well as if in fact it does go down, it's an integral part to the operation of the facility. And so we just felt as though we needed to have a contingency plan in place and have capital approved if in fact it does go down, or we may even elect to repair it, not repair it, but replace it on our own at some point. So we just need that ability.
Yeah, and I think it's important to note, Chris, we keep talking about the town purchasing the building. But the town's purchasing the building and all of the internal components and machinery and mechanical components as well. So this is an existing part of the building that when it's down, it's a critical piece of the puzzle, and everything backs up behind it. So I just want to make that distinction. We'll own the building and everything inside of it.
Okay. Good. Questions in the room?
Yeah, Chris, am I missing something? The supplemental document quote is for 217,000. But the ask is for 500,000, or am I missing something?
No, I mean, you are correct.
Is that just for the equipment, Chris, and not any of the labor?
Yes, it does not include the labor. That is correct, Drew. And truth be known, when I did put the request together, I was working off of information based on conversations with Waste Options, as well as old documents that they had supplied to me for repair in the past. And they did come up with the actual an actual quote for the purchase of that RAM feed system. But once again, we are probably a year and a half out from doing that, as well as it did not take into consideration any of the additional labor and modifications that may be necessary in order to complete the install.
Yeah, Chris, I mean, I'm definitely with you. I mean, this is a critical piece of the supply chain up there. So it's not that. I'm just wondering if 500 is the right number. Fine, Drew, but sounds like it might be a little high, but anyway, I'm good.
Yeah, John, to that point, if you dial into the Carlton funding, they have the 500 broken down as 300 for equipment and fixtures, so the 217 from the quote, plus I guess
Okay.
escalator for time that goes by until that, and then 200 for construction, quote unquote.
Where are you seeing that?
So on the left side of the request, you have the introduction,
Yeah.
classification, prioritization, Carlton funding, usually a good place to get kind of the breakdown. But I mean, to that point, 200 for construction, it sounds like, that's the removal of the existing, installation of the new, any modifications that need to be made at that time, other, repairs, obviously nothing goes as, as, smoothly when you're replacing, old parts with new. So that 200 is an
Okay.
additional charge kind of
Okay.
that goes into the 500. And we're talking about numbers here. I guess my only question was, so this is an ask to have this funding in place if you need to order the new RAM, or would you order the new RAM and have it in-house to avoid any further delays and then replace it when you need to?
That's a great question. And
Going from the
unfortunately,
side of a commercial fisherman who has an extra 2 or 3 parts for every, part of his engine on his boat,
yeah,
lying around somewhere that he can't find when he needs it.
yeah.
Chris,
So
how
this
big
is
is this thing?
yeah, it's a fairly large piece of equipment,
Yeah.
and the solid waste facility is limited on space for storage. DPW is limited on space for storage, and I would absolutely fear damage or something along that line could occur if in fact we did go that route. I love the idea. I really do. I think I would love to have a whole warehouse full of parts. But you know what, I can look into that further and try to flesh that out.
Yeah, it was just a question more than anything, or a clarification. And so to that point, might be something that's ordered when it appears that the existing one is really on its last leg instead of waiting until it is fully non-operational and then waiting lead time, delivery, all of that.
Chris, do we know what the lead time is from placing an order to actually getting it in the
Maybe
yard?
install, yeah.
Unfortunately, no, I do not know that. I didn't receive the quote myself. It was provided to Waste Options
We need that.
based on through our service agreement. So, I can find out though.
You know, I just think, Peter, your point was a good one, but it's not really just about this. I mean, when we're taking over this from Waste Options, probably someone should take a look at the whole damn thing and see what are the critical pieces that are the long lead time, almost as much as the money, because if we can't get it, we can't get it.
Well, I think if it's.
Or if it's a month or
if it's-
two.
If it's
Yeah.
critical and it's a
Yeah.
3 month,
Yeah,
then the point is moot, really.
Yeah.
I mean, it's.
Still got 3 months of downtime on the system
Yeah.
while you're waiting, which is.
yeah. So that might be something we want to put in our report, or you handle it whatever way you want, but
Yeah.
it sounds like somebody should be cycling right through the whole process from one end to the other
Yeah.
and figuring it out.
Well, I think Chris is doing that. I think you looked at the spare parts that are on site, Chris, sure that the spare parts that you need are available and in inventory to the extent that you can. And the second point I would make is that I'm guessing, and I don't know, that a part like a ram feed is not off the shelf because it's might be custom to our installation or to anybody else's, Chris.
I believe that you are correct, Howard, that the ram feed is designed and built specifically for this, the composter. To that fact, I think lead time is important and it's something that I should look into and I will report back.
Yeah, I know when we did the purchase, you looked at the spare parts, but maybe it behooves us to look once again at the parts that are there and what the critical path is to get them for these not off the shelf items.
Understood.
Yeah.
Great, well, that sounds like a very important part, very important to be able to, quickly in case of, emergency or in operation of the system because of one part such as the RAM feed itself. I think it's an important request. Thanks for the info and insight. Everyone else good?
Yep.
Yeah, good. Howard, thanks for your insight as well. Great. All right, I think that moves us to 003, if I.
Yes, yeah. You're following my logic. That's great.
I
Thank
got
you.
it, yeah, okay.
So 003 is the biofilter building improvements. Once again, we're kind of following the same thought process. The same thought process for the biofilter as we just discussed with the RAM feed. So we are purchasing the composting building. Once again, we would take possession of it December 1st, 2025. So I think pictures would help explain this as well. So if you haven't seen the composting buildings, they are kind of a hoop type structure that is built with plastic sheathing or polyethylene sheathing for both sides as well as roofing. Over the years, Waste Options has repaired the buildings. The buildings presently do not leak. They are in good working order. But that I think that we should think about the actual reskinning of the buildings, just so that we can feel good about its useful life as well as the outlook as far as going forward. So it's not something that we would have to act upon immediately, but we can be prepared to do so. Once again, this is a specialty contractor that Waste Options has used in the past for repair and replacement. It's just, operationally, we can't operate with holes in the walls or ceilings. The material that we are processing needs to stay dry within the buildings. And this would ensure the fact that we are able to comply with the permit conditions and that we would have a long, useful life for the building again. I do not know the amount of useful life for the building and for the film plastic that they utilize. That's something that I will look into along with the lead times and spare parts list that Howard did mention on the other items.
Chris, you were talking
Okay.
about a visual. I was able to look one up. If I could share my screen for a quick second, just so people can see what it looks like.
Yeah, should be good on our end.
You guys see this?
Ain't doing it?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
So the yellow drum here is the composter. And then this is, Chris, this the tip building down here on this end?
Nope, that is the air floor building.
Uh,
Yep, that is the
oh.
air floor building.
Airflow runs east to west down here. But the south end of this building is, I thought, the tip floor.
No, the tip floor, Drew, would be to the left-hand side. I'm sorry, to the right-hand side of your picture at the top. That what connects to the drum. So that would
Correct.
be the tip building, and then this is the air floor building, correct?
But anyways, I mean, you can see a couple of these buildings have the same style roof that Chris was talking about with that kind of skin. It's not a rigid material.
And to Drew's to add to Drew's description, you can see on the composter building, we do have the tip building itself. We do have I'm not sure what type of roof system this actually is, but this is a great picture of the air floor building, because you can see that there have been panels replaced in the past because of the brightness of them. So, I mean, things are nice and tight, nothing's leaking, but in fact, there is a useful life, for those items.
Okay. Anybody in the room?
Good.
Lights, questions? Howard?
No, I'm good. I do have one follow-up question at the end of this, but I can insert it now. That is, Chris, that we did the LOI with Waste Options, but I think we never did the actual purchase and sale contract with them for the building. Is that right?
So we did the MOU for the purchase of the buildings, Howard, but there has not been a purchase and sale agreement.
So what we need to do is, this has inspired me that we don't have the exhibit with the parts that are coming with the purchase to put into the contract itself, and that means that's kind of connected with that spare parts issue, and that we want to keep on site too. So we probably need to focus on this a little bit pretty soon.
I totally agree with you, Howard. Yes.
Chris, just one clarification for me. So this would be to re-skin, so to speak, all of the buildings out there that have this kind of side and roof system. So they're all starting 100% fresh, so to speak.
That would be correct. Yes, yes. The buildings in their present condition are fine.
Yeah.
But that we wanted the ability to have funding available. So if we did decide to upgrade the buildings, then we could, or if in fact there was something that caused us to have to do some repair immediately, that we had that ability as well.
I mean, ultimately, to answer your question, SWEF 26, 001, 002, and 003 are 3 of the 4 buildings that are part of the composter. And I guess I'm getting a little bit ahead of Chris here, but it's the building improvements, which includes roof siding and the roll-up door. And then the tip building has siding and roof repair, and then the aeration building has siding and roof repair. So that is the intent, yes. These three capital appropriations would allow us to have essentially as new of a building as we could possibly have after purchasing it.
Okay, and it's not with definite plans or a timeline to make these improvements, it's more to have this in place for when the time comes that the buildings require these improvements?
Twofold, yes. So if in fact we did have to do repair or replacement, for some type of emergency, but also the ability to improve upon them prior to,
Yeah.
yes, that's correct.
Chris and I have talked about that. What is our timeline? And the sooner we do it, the better, but also then the sooner you have to replace it 15, 20 years down the road. But we've kind of been targeting the end of fiscal year 26. After we take ownership in December, over the winter, put something out to bid and have it installed in the spring in time for summer, which is our tentative goal right now.
Okay, yeah, and I don't disagree with that at all, it sounds like a lot of this is kind of, akin to buying a fixer upper, and you go in and you fix all the things that need fixing that, immediately, so that, you're living in a house that is what you want it to be kind of from the start, instead of slowly waiting, replacing things, the first year, the second year, the third year, the fourth year, and
Reactionary.
yeah, so, okay. Yeah, just to note there was a definitive timeline for these, like, we're gonna, put it out to bid and do it all in the first 6 months, but. Got it. Great. Anybody else in the room?
Good.
Good, Howard, good?
Good.
Okay,
So I can go to 002 and 001 if you'd like, but Drew kind of stole my thunder.
Sure.
So
They're very
I'd be
similar.
I'd be happy to go through things, but it's the same situation as Drew just mentioned.
yeah, I'm looking at 002. I'm guessing that one has a different type of roof and siding. Just based on the fact that the quote's from a different company. Probably not covered by the same fabric cover company, but
That is correct, yeah.
Yeah, it's sheet metal.
Yes.
yeah, gotcha. That one is 275. Yeah, I mean, that seems to track with 003s. I don't know if anybody has any specifics on this one. Yeah, no,
Same.
yeah,
I mean,
all right.
Chris,
And
if
anything, I guess-
anything, Chris, I was just gonna say, if anything, you could talk to the significance of having the aeration building as airtight as can be, with the positive pressure and all that. The
Yes.
need to keep it dry.
No, that's a good point, Drew. So with our request for the aeration building, for the siding and the roof, that building operates on a negative air pressure so that we maintain maintain odor and things like that within the building and not just, disperse it throughout the solid waste facility. So in order for the negative air pressure to be able to operate and maintain its and do what it's supposed to do, we have to have a relatively airtight building. Obviously, doors open and shut as the operation goes, but during the off hours, the doors are all shut, and that air is maintained as negative air pressure so that it operates properly. So holes in the walls, holes in the roof, things like that would not lend itself to the operation of the negative air system working properly.
Got it. Yeah, interesting concept, which I was not familiar with.
So the people in Matticat, thank you in advance.
Appreciate it, yeah. I mean, so just, since I don't think there's probably too many questions on it. How does it maintain that negative pressure without just having a vacuum inside that's sucking the air from the inside out and distributing it outside somewhere?
So one of the capital improvements that we requested was the biofilter.
Yeah.
And so this air system that the negative air system passes through the biofilter, which is a fancy name for a great big wood chip pile, in which the air is removed from the airfloor building and passed through the wood chips, a green wood chip, and that scrubs the odor, and then it is released from the actual biofilter itself without odor.
Gotcha. Interesting. Okay, makes sense.
Chris, we have a few minutes.
Yes, sure.
Yeah, Chris, I'm new at this, so I have what might be a question I should already know the answer to, but I do not. So with our, history with Waste Options, they owned the building and the equipment, so anything that around building and equipment was for them to take care of, is that right? No.
That is correct. Yes. They
Now
own it. They
going-
take care of it.
Yeah, going forward, the new operator, though, we will take on that responsibility for the building and the equipment, not the new operator, or,
So the way the RFP was written, ancillary maintenance and repair items within, that are not major components, greasing, making sure the oils are changed, things like that are within the RFP and will be in the waste service agreement for the operator to maintain. But any major repair items or components, because they will be the town's responsibility, we're responsible for that.
yeah, no, I'm just, so for
Can
you
I-
guys, this is a whole new level, though, of responsibility for some very expensive buildings, and more importantly, a critical part of our town's infrastructure.
Well, John, it's not really, because the last contract was pretty much a turnkey contract, and I would color a little bit about what Chris said. He can kick me under the table, but that is that if there are major capital improvements or major repairs that need to be done on the facility, it is not included in the contract as a price, but we would agree to work together to figure out how to accomplish it, and then it would be paid for on a mutually agreeable basis, maybe an increase in the rate, or we would pay for that cost out of pocket. So this contract is, and the last contract, which was a little bit messy, are not that much different, except that this one's way better.
Got it. Okay, thanks, Howard.
I would just add to that too, the purchase price of the composter was $1 million even, which my understanding is if we were going to build those 4 buildings and the composter these days, it would be far in excess of the purchase price. So, we lament a little bit that we're taking on buildings that are not in perfect tip-top shape, sure. But I think at the end of the day, the improvements we're going to do to it, plus the original purchase price, we're still far ahead of building I don't even know how many millions of dollars for a new composter.
It was big. The other thing is that we haven't, in our LOI that we have executed with Waste Options, there is also not an exhibit that details the condition of the facilities that we're buying. And so we're going to need to spend some time on that, Drew, to make sure that they didn't like obnoxiously wear it down into the ground without doing proper maintenance on it, just because they knew that they were getting out.
Yeah, no, when we've had that chat with finance department and town council.
Yeah.
It's all part of it. Process.
Drew, this kind of goes back a little bit to our conversation last week about public outreach. That's not what I'm suggesting, but it is now on the DPW. If something bad happened here, one of these pieces of equipment went down before we got the new piece and all that, that's now us. There is no them being Waste Options. So I would just say you might want to think a little bit about that and make sure the advantages you just quoted getting something for $1 million that might have been 4 or 5 million, that's a big plus that you ought to be getting some credit for. Just my thought. Thank you.
You raised an interesting point, but public opinion is not so complex as that. It's much more blatant, like we can operate it ourselves. We don't need a outside party to do it. Not that we own the building. So there's a lot of simpletons that have decided that this is a pretty easy thing to operate, and it's not.
I would just also add to that, having buildings that are not in our control adjacent to buildings that are in our control is difficult, and it's easy to say that it's always the town's responsibility no matter what, right? Whether we own the building and we have control over it, or whether we're responsible for making sure the contractor follows through. I'd almost say I'd rather us have control of it, because I trust that we're going to get this stuff done, and then we'll stay ahead of problems. I know we didn't do it, and I wasn't sure if you guys wanted to, but Sue had attached FY23 and 24 capital in that spreadsheet. And when I was looking through it, I was proud to look at it and say done, 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 and done. And that's what we expect to do in the years to come.
Yeah, I would amplify. I think that we're going to be able to control our destiny a whole lot better by owning these buildings. But the rationale for having not owned the building was that Waste Options built them for us, and they financed it, and then we paid for it on a fee basis. So now life is over. We paid for it through our fees, and we're going to own those buildings. They kind of had the residual value but they couldn't really walk off with the building. So we came to a very good conclusion on how to take the asset, and now it is our responsibility to clean it up and make sure the operator keeps it in good shape.
I agree. Thank you.
All right. That concludes fiscal year 26 requests, unless anybody has any last lingering. No. Okay, great insights, great conversation. I guess unless there's anything from Drew or Chris specifically for us, we could probably let you guys get back to it.
The only thing I wanted to add was, when I did do the ranking, I placed it as medium.
Thank you.
I believe I should edit those as high, because, basically, the support and the conversations that we have had, we need to be prepared, and I'm not sure if a ranking of medium is not, well, obviously high, low, medium, and high. So in my mind, it's more of a high.
If only we had a medium high option.
Yeah.
Medium.
Or like a 1 through 10,
Yeah.
Chris, if you're looking for feedback, mate, you got mine, and it's high.
Yeah.
This is like water, we cannot survive without it. So I don't know how it could be anything less than high, to be honest.
Okay.
That's exactly right. The problem is that it's exactly what BJ had said before, which is that the lead times for these items could be huge, and we just can't get caught without having funding available and potentially equipment on site to repair this stuff and replace it. If it was ranked a medium, it really wouldn't reflect the true urgency of the situation when things go bad.
Thank you for the clarification, Chris. I think it's noted, whether it's changed in the system or not, we'll all carry that over to our kind of ranking decision-making process. So it's good to know. Appreciate it. Drew, Chris, always good to have you guys.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Appreciate your time.
Great work out there, and yeah. If we have any other questions, we'll reach back out.
Sounds
Excellent.
great. Thank you.
Thank you all very much.
See you guys.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
With that said, I will pass the baton back over to our fearless chairwoman.
Thanks for doing that, Pete.
Of course.
Chill, fearless.
Yeah, I wouldn't say that. I got a big paddle match tonight. I'm scared of, so I don't know.
Somebody's fearful.
So like next week, we're meeting at 2 o'clock
Airport,
with the
Follow up?
airport and then Dave Gray at 3.
Is that sewers follow-up too? Or is that their?
That's his first
That's the
one.
first one.
Sewer and
I
stormwater.
didn't know if I missed them earlier.
Yep.
Great.
And then, like I said, we'll be finished with kind of what new information. If you go, if you want someone to come back, if you have questions about certain Rory's, you know, start emailing your questions to Sue or bring them next week, but you should probably, I just want to make sure you have all the information you want to answer your questions before you do your rankings. And on the rankings, I did want to mention, I asked Sue some questions myself, and I'm gonna share a little bit of information for you real quick. I was asking about the cobblestone request from the DPW. And because I noticed that they haven't spent last year's money. And so they have, you know, that's kind of coming up with a few requests, so you might look at that when you look at the supplement documents. So just take a look at those, you know?
Okay.
That's, yeah.
Yeah, and then also we still don't, on the PFAS question for town admin, I asked about that and. Cause he didn't have a plan, like it was kind of just emergency money, but they also have $1 million, it looks like, remaining from an original appropriation. That's separate from the PFAS money that sewer and water and airport and all that stuff. I just wanted to make that comment to you, but, you know, questions like that, put them to Sue and to me if they come up for you. Or you can put them in that footnotes and comments section if you want to. That's kind of a good
Yeah.
place for it if that's something. But again, for me, I want to know those things before I rank it. So the footnotes and comments are gonna be more for our deliberation after we rank it.
So tomorrow, Dawn, myself, are having a liaison meeting with Christy Fairchild on housing.
Yep.
So if anything comes out of that, you know. like
Right.
Next week. You know, I had a liaison meeting with Mark Willett and the water thing, and I don't think it's necessarily gonna affect 26, in fact, it's not. But when you really get to understand what the long term impacts of PFAS are gonna be and how much access to wells he's gonna lose and stuff, he's got some big numbers coming up in, I don't know.
No, he said
28.
next year, he said he might have to ask for a water treatment plant.
Yeah,
Water treatment.
yeah,
I was gonna say, so was that,
yeah,
When
there's
you cite the
that,
big numbers, is that
and, you know,
hand laying
another
water main?
tower and all kinds of stuff, so. You know, I don't, like I said, I don't think it's necessary for this, but, you know, it's a bit like this one, you know, water affects every single one of us, so, you know, we may want to look out a little longer in a little more detail than we normally do, but
Yeah.
if it was that's what I would do anyway, just to make sure we all understand what big numbers are coming down.
And on that point for big numbers, I know with our island home, we really didn't ever talk about that here, so we could talk about that in the deliberation if you all want to, but that's another one that we really didn't. I don't even think one of us has a single question when Rick was here. So that just jogged my memory for that. So thanks, Howard. I mean, John, gosh.
Thanks, Howard.
You guys are two peas in a pile.
Yeah, I'm gonna be on a plane next week, so I may or may not be able to get there at 2, but we'll see.
Okay,
This-
anybody else?
Just touching on the information that you provided from Sue and kind of a question for the general committee. I mean, when we think of requests that have unspent funds from prior year requests
Mm-hmm.
for cobblestones, for roads, for whatever it is, I mean, it's, how do we incorporate that into our rankings, kind of, because it's,
Yeah,
you know, it's kind of one of those hard ones where it's all, if they're 500,000 still from last year and they're asking for another million. You know, do we feel okay about it at 500 because they still have 500, but not at $1 million because they still have 500? Like it's,
It depends what the balance is, I mean,
and then whether or not they're gonna use it.
it's not, this is not a critical account where you need to carry a balance.
Yeah, agreed.
right.
Agreed, and how much harder it is to, it seems like to put, you know, last year's 100% capacity might be this year's 80%, because it's just, there's more going on, whether it's roads or it's people laying bricks or whatever it is,
Yeah.
And I know a lot of times we'll ask that for these recurring requests. And it's just difficult to come to a conclusion of how those remaining balances should or do impact our rankings for current requests. I don't know, I've always struggled with it, I guess.
If I may, you know, if Victor's the only show in town and he's got limited capacity to do the work,
Yeah.
there isn't a catch up, really. It's just, you know, it's an ongoing performance. And so to me, it seems like they should be reducing what they're asking for based on what work they really can get done in fiscal year 25-26, so that they can have enough money left over to do the work for this year and zero balance at the end of this year. And I think they're over.
Christie?
Does anyone know if we have, like, do we have a list with Victor? Like, do they just have, and they'll get to it? Or are they waiting for us to say something? Like, what's the next step? Like, who reacts first? We give them a list and they're working off our list. This is the next needs area.
Next week,
Yeah.
we're like.
Or-
Some of that's gonna change. I mean, we can't expect them to like
Yeah.
pull to that. But I agree. I think it's a capacity issue, and I'm seeing this in a lot of the requests, that things that, to be honest, I'm probably gonna rank kind of low. Because I know that they don't have the manpower, they don't have the
Yeah.
personnel. They, you know, how are you gonna just give them a certain amount of money and they're gonna turn around and have a study maybe, but who's here that's can manage that? And those are some of the bigger questions that I'm thinking about, but those are good questions to point to me and Sue will chase some of these for you.
Yeah.
Unless, you know, you wanna reach out to the department heads yourself, but I would keep it in mind because
Yeah.
there are some big ticket items this year, and this wouldn't be a bad year to make sure that we drill down even on
Fine, too.
$500,000. I mean,
Yeah, a little fine tuning, yeah.
you know,
Well, I think that maybe we should go back to the paving stone issue and ask the DPW what the real number is that's gonna be required after the amount that they have in pocket and already approved to spend.
yeah, but again, like, I know that PFAS is a huge issue, but can they actually spend it? They didn't spend the million last year. That's what I'm
Yeah.
saying.
Well, I'm saying the same thing. I'm saying,
Yeah.
let's go back to the source of the request and have them revisit this in the context of what the reality is. of
Especially when they don't have a plan attached to it. I mean, and there was no plan attached to the PFAS
So,
one.
yeah.
And I know it's like reserve emergency funds, but we have those things because DEP, I think, requires those things for sewer and water and airport. I mean, I don't know, and I didn't even know Capcom was supposed to be used for emergency funds, so maybe I should ask you that soon.
I would have to discuss that with town admin.
Thank you.
Yes, I'm sorry, I can't, I could give you my opinion, but that's.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I mean, that's the
Yeah, I mean,
kind of question I have.
PFAS is one thing that we know there's gonna be bills. And, I'm less concerned with the balance in PFAS than I am with covers.
Yeah, except that we don't know that the state hasn't come yet to tell us what we're gonna evaluate and what they're gonna require.
But it's
And
almost
that
like a
will take time.
stabilization fund. It's almost like preparing so that we don't get hit with it's like coastal resiliency almost. You almost gotta like prepare for what we kind of know is gonna happen. And if we manage it along the way, lightly, I'm not saying full funding, but if we start to put funding aside for it, then I feel better than I do getting all of a sudden hit. And I think through the year, it is an important enough item to where a little bit of flexibility with a balance might help. I don't know, we can further discuss it, that's just my,
I think
that's
it's
my.
a valid
that-
point,
That's my two
but I would
cents.
like to know what the state, if they, are these gonna be unfunded mandates, or are they
Yeah,
gonna be?
I
funded?
guess, Jill, what I'd like to do is if, it's not, whatever these next steps are. It's an important enough subject, like what the balance is, that we ought to really go through them all, and so it's not an ad hoc thing that, oh, that one, oh, you remember that one? Maybe we should just go through them all and see where, where it might be an issue, and then make sure that we look at all of them, and if some of them are a quick tick in the box,
All requests?
yeah,
Same.
yeah, if some are a quick tick in the box, fine, but if they're not, we should go back on all, not just the ones where it's big enough to warrant that. What I wouldn't want to see is like we looked at these three, but we didn't look at those two, and for no good
Well,
reason.
I'm just an idea, I've gone through mine for me,
Or-
so I asked Sue, so if you
Yeah.
all wanna.
Yeah.
If you find more things as you go along, not every request is gonna be able to reveal to you that they don't have it. The other thing I wanted to bring up is that in the Rory's, it says, was this in the SIP? And that's one of, it's like continuity B, so. It's one of the questions. Well, that is actually a fact, if it is or it isn't, and so I don't really know why it's in our Rory's at all, because. So all I do is I go back and I look at the supplemental documents to see, was it in the SIP? Well, you can see, you can link to the SIP request. So that's all. I don't know how y'all feel about that, and I'm not saying we can change it this year, because that might just be too much work with all
The
that's going
SIP
on.
request is what, sorry.
Capital improvement plan.
It's just like, were they planning for it? So it's
I
kind of a
Wasn't it scheduled?
indication.
I think that was derived from the scheduled replacement
That's
line
what I
item
said.
though, and I think it was just the way that he broadened scheduled replacement, which was always one that was up for interpretation with vehicles essentially, and
Yeah,
essentially opened it up to like, was this planned for ahead of time, or was it
Yeah.
just something that you just realized this year that you need? And it made more sense with scheduled replacement, because it was, is this ambulance the same one that you knew 8 years ago you were gonna need now, or last year did you just come up with this all of a sudden and say, hey, we need a new ambulance?
so it's kind of giving it some credence that it was planned for, but.
Which I guess shows that there's a little bit more thought and responsibility
But,
going
but
into
then
it.
how does that square up with emergency funds if we're funding emergency, or we're funding planning for emergency funds?
Yeah, that one probably wouldn't necessarily apply, right,
Then-
because you're approving
It
funds.
wouldn't,
that-
and then all of a sudden that's kind of getting,
And
I
it
don't know.
applies more to.
That one just
equipment.
doesn't sit right with.
Probably why it has a small percentage toward the full ranking.
It is.
So even if the 100, it gets 4% extra to the overall ranking, and if it's a 0, it's.
Yeah.
Doesn't get any of that for it, but,
That's true.
um,
Well, maybe we can talk about all those at the end. I don't really want to change those this year because we have it set up and we're going to.
and I don't know if we can, but once people have already done Rory's
Yeah.
without redoing the whole Rory's.
Which I don't want to do because I.
Cause you've probably done the most of them, out of all of us.
No, I can say that, but I had a little time and I was making progress. I do it differently. I do it by department head, so I do it by person, so I remember who I saw and
That's fine.
I pull up their initials. So I don't know how you all do it, but
Done more than.
that way I do, that way I do a department all at the same time. I like that better than jumping around.
Same, oh yeah.
All right, can I get a motion? Unless there's anything else,
Yeah, next meeting, which we already talked about, but
next Thursday,
next Thursday,
2.
2:00,
2 and Seth, 3.
24th.
Yeah. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
Yeah, it is.
So moved.
Second,
On your motion, Christie?
Aye.
John,
I
Pete,
Aye.
Howard?
Aye.
Jill, aye. Thanks, everybody. Thanks a lot for your time. You all.
Fantastic.
And stop the recording.
That.